So Ingrams Pond, first time in a boat. I've been waiting for this for quite some time. Water's got a funky color to it. I'm presuming it's because of the heat. All right, so our goal today is pretty much just to take a look around a little bit. We're gonna fish, we're gonna see if we can get some panfish, get a grasp on what kind of panfish population there is, what the size of the population is, you know, average size of the fish, to kind of get our own management numbers together. I have a pretty good idea what we're going to do here already based off of what we did fishing the shoreline, but we'll see. And then I'm going to throw some bigger baits just to see if there's any bigger fish in. Now, right out of the gate, the depth map that's online for this pond is off. Like, not even close. Not exactly sure where the 5-foot depth is here, because we just came from the middle of the pond the whole way out through here, and it's pretty much 4 feet the whole way around, no matter how you slice it. It showed a couple 7-foot holes over here somewhere, and they must be about the size of a shoebox, because I'm not even seeing any inklings of deeper holes. Of course, who knows too, this pond's probably so sedimented in it. It could chill up there. I think I saw a 5-foot. So anyway, we're gonna keep searching, keep looking. Yeah, I guess. It's pretty shallow.
Is it? How shallow?
No, it's only 3.6 here right now. But we'll see. So you should probably only be set. There's a hit. First fish. Well, very first cast here. And when I thought it was really shallow water, you got to be kidding me. That's a first for me. Yellow perch, and a pretty decent one, I'm guessing, on a swim bait. And again, the spark sheds. Huh, that's pretty cool. Well, has that got another dink? Dink-a-dink. You gonna measure these now?
I can.
Yes, you will. All 4.5 inches of that one. Another dink. Oh, another yellow perch too. Oh, quick release. Oh, all right.
And he goes.
So 82-degree water. Yeah. Gotta find where the cool spots are in here, because that ain't gonna cut it. These other fish are going somewhere. We just gotta find it. So we just finished scouting out over on that shoreline, which is anywhere from 2.6 down to 3.5 in depth. It's not very deep. Picked up some panfish, nothing of any size. Well, I guess the yellow perch down for Delaware, they were considered decent fish. Filletable fish, but they were both put back in. We're not planning on keeping today unless things change. We're down through here. We're gonna go past the ramp area here and fish a shoreline that we usually fish from shore. I'm gonna fish down through here while there's nobody here fishing, so I don't interrupt anybody. I'd stay away from here if ever guys fishing the shoreline. We'll see what happens. Keep plugging away. Not sure what Zachary got tied in with. That looks like a crapazoid. That was a crapazoid. You want the net, or are you gonna try to lift that thing? You're gonna lose it. Hold on. Oh, get a measurement on that. That one there might be a 10-inch fish. Maybe not. That's a 9-inch class fish.
Good thing I grabbed a hold of him when I did. That
Hey,
thing
I told you. That's a good cast there, Zach. That's exactly where I was headed. So I'll fish this side of it. Oh, there was a hit. There he goes. Yeah, it did. Oh, a little nicer bluegill. I took the hair jig. Took the hair jig. Huh. 7.5 inch class fish. And just out of curiosity's sake.
Hey, he's peeing all over my bag too. I'm not getting this one back.
A whopping 6 ounces. Off he goes. There is all kind of stuff out here at about 3.5 feet. I'm gonna spin the boat after you're done with that cast. Zach kept going on here. Another trapezoid. Hey, like them little itty bit swimmers. Are you trying to get them to come off, or?
No, I'm trying to get him to settle down so I can lift him.
Oh, I see. Another black. That looks like another. What was the other one?
That was 9.5.
9.5. That's probably a 9-inch class fish there. Maybe. Boy, that's a thick. That thing's got a lot of meat on it. For as long as it is.
Yep, 9.5.
Another 9.5er. Get a weight on that one. So we're in between fish here. It's been a while. The crappie are definitely, oh, come on. Crappie are definitely cookie cutter fish, meaning that they all seem to be about the same size. They're not shabby, but they're far from decent. That one may be an 8-inch class fish. Oh, that is a 10-inch fish. Boy, didn't look like it. Interesting. Interesting to say the least. Oh, that got another trapezoid. They're in here, but boy, they are. That's a nice fish there, bud. Nicer than we've been getting anyway. That could be a 10-inch class fish. A little nicer than what we've been getting. I shouldn't say what we've been getting, it's just they're so few and far between. 10 inches. Hey, finally. I was wondering if there were any bass in this pond. Apparently there's one little one. They're pale fish, I'm presuming because of the watercolor right now. There's one sneezing back there. There's a couple of them sneezing back there. I bet they're just little ones though. Ah. Oh. Never set the hook. I think I may have just gotten big fish, buddy. Which he really isn't that big, but.
You want some help?
Huh.
Oh yeah, you definitely got this.
No, I haven't in the boat yet. Nah, he's not that big. He's not that big.
It's big.
Nah. Long and skinny. Maybe 12 inches. Mm, 13 and a quarter. Oh, oh, stop, fish, stop. Oh my Lord.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to get hold of him because he's been caught before. So I'm gonna say 13 and a quarter.
Yeah.
I don't know if we even go a pound. 1 pound even. Back he goes. Back he goes. Zach, oh, Zach lost a crapazoid. That's a pretty big grub you're using for a crapazoid.
Yeah, well, if it works, it works.
Yeah, it's true. So the tackle we were using today, Zach was using, he was fishing a rod with a setup under a float, a little 64th ounce hair jig and a 64th ounce plain jig head. The jig head tipped with Berkeley power bait, a power honeyworm is what they call those. Thank you. And then the hair jig, he had a Berkeley crappie nibble on white. I don't know that the color makes a difference at all, but his jigs were actually set pretty close to each other. They weren't probably more than about 6 inches apart, and he was pretty shallow under the float where he was fishing maybe 18 to 20 inches under a float. And then his other rod, he was swimming, he was using, you know, you've seen us use these things before, the Bobby Garland 80-bit swimmers on a 64th ounce jig head. He ended up putting a split shot ahead of that to get a little more casting distance off a single jig, because there's not a whole lot of weight there and they fall really, really slow in the water. And then he was using Kalen grubs, full-size grubs on 64th ounce jig heads, again, with an extended shank hook. I make these simply to get the hook point back at the tail. A standard hook would have it about mid-body of the grub, and you have so many misses, so many short strikes with those. We found we have better hookup ratios with that hook moved a little bit farther back in the grub. He didn't have a whole lot of luck on those. The majority of his fish was coming on that 80-bit swimmer and the hair jig and stuff. So my tackle between yesterday and today was pretty much the same. I stayed with the same setups, the same baits, just to kind of verify that what we had yesterday wasn't a fluke, which I'm still not sure if it was or not. But I would start fishing with the Mega Bass Spark Shads in 3-inch and 4-inch. These two are both 3-inch. The 4-inch I had yesterday was in the blue size, just another inch longer, a little bit bigger body. And I was fishing those on 1/0 owner twist lock hooks. Now these things I really like because the weight on these are adjustable. It's not adjustable weight as per the weight itself. It's adjustable as to where the weight is, where you can take that weight and you can push that weight up to the front of the hook. And what that does, that's the difference between this bait falling through the water
like this, you know, with a nose down presentation, I have found that I get more response pushing that weight as far back the hook as I can to allow the bait to actually fall horizontally down through the water column. And then when I start my retrieve, it'll pick up and it'll swim back up. It'll swim back up. Normally, I stop my retrieve, it'll settle down and it'll start to fall flat again. That seems to work pretty well for these spark shads. I'm fishing those on a medium action bait casting rod. It's a medium power rod, medium action. I like this setup because I can switch back and forth between the spark shad size of swim baits and Mega Bass's Mag Draft, which is a much larger profile bait, heavier bait. I have my rod set up that all I have to do is I change my reel settings, you know, to cast for the castability of the baits, but I can fish those both on the same rod, meaning that I can simply make changes on the water much faster. Then what I was doing, I have a shorter rod here, a little 4.5 or a 4-foot rod. This is Berkley's Microlight, and this is Berkley's true Microlight. It is not like the one that is out there available today. This is an old, I'm going to say maybe late 80s, early 90s rod. And this was a true microlight because the tip of this rod actually comes down to the size of number 2 pencil lead. It is a super, super light rod, and it is a blast to fish with for panfish. The slow action of the rod doesn't load up till it gets between the first guide and the handle of the rod. So what I was doing yesterday, that rod was set up for a slip float. And then my other rod that I have, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but this rod and the other rod was throwing jigs, this rod was throwing slip floats, and they were absolutely positively the wrong setup for both those rods. The slow action of my 7.5-foot rod is terrible for throwing jigs because the action of the rod actually seems to absorb strikes. I think I was getting strikes on those on the jigs I was throwing, and it was never feeling them. And the short rod, the short micro rod with a slip float, I just was not getting the casting distance I want out of a slip float. I want to be able to reach out there with a slip float and fish well away from the boat or the shore with a slip float. So today I changed them. I put the slip float, and the slip float setup I was using was a slip float with a double jig rig. I have a 64th ounce hair jig here that I was using on the top, and then below that, about 18 inches below that, was a regular 64th ounce jig head. That one was tipped with Berkley Gulp Alive leeches. They're 1-inch leeches. And the hair jig I was tipping with a Berkley crappie nibble, just for scent, nothing more than that. And then yesterday, that setup I had set at about 39 inches, and I adjusted the depth of that setup. You know, with your bobber stop, you can slide that up and down the line depending on how deep you can set it on the fly. I searched all morning long to try to find that magic depth, and I just never found it. I mean, I was catching fish, but it wasn't to the point where I knew I was at the right depth that the fish were definitely feeding at, or, you know, suspending at, or even if they were on the bottom, I just never found it. So I changed all that. I put everything, I fished out on my 7.5-foot rod. Like I said, that is a custom rod here. Slow action rod that, again, is perfect for slip floats because I can get a long cast range out of it, and the slow action works very, very well with a slip float set up to set the hook on a fish. The travel of the rod just seems to amplify the hook setting ability on it, and I have zero problems with it. Ingrams Pond, day 2. Gonna give us another swing today. See if we can repeat the performance we had yesterday, or even better a little bit. I started this morning throwing those 4-inch swim baits again, and I've missed 2 so far that I could tell were smaller fish because they weren't very solid hits. And what I've done is I've rigged myself up to throw a set of double micro swim baits to follow up when that happens, to see if I can't connect into a fish. And that's kind of exactly what just happened here. I'm waiting for it to connect again. I don't know if it'll happen or not. And I also have set up, I have two different ones on. I have a light colored one and a dark colored one to see if the color game makes a difference today. And it went unanswered, so we'll go back to the original plan. Oh, there he goes. This was finally, after 4 hours of fishing, I get a dink. That is one wild looking bluegill. That fish has blue fins. One hair jig. There is an awful lot of aqua in this fish. Like more so than I've seen in a bluegill before. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but those fins are almost blue. Thank you, fishy. He stole my leech. Zacharoni. Things are starting to happen now. So, raises the question. Is it a timing thing? That this shoreline doesn't turn on until later in the morning? Oh! Zacharoni just said, oh! Oh, isn't that cute? Well, they're not very big today, but they fish.
He ate that.
He ate that. All right.
Finally.
So 84.5 degrees today, 24 hours later, and it is a grind out here today. I mean, we have been working and working and working, going through lures, going through locations, going through retrieves, and have very, very little to show for our efforts. So we're going to hit one last shady shoreline, hoping to see a little bit of change in temperature, maybe pulled some fish over, because they are certainly not where they were just yesterday morning at the same time. So we'll see. I'm going to keep plugging away for a little bit, and if nothing changes, I'm going home and going back to bed. Whoop, I was gonna say there was a fish. I saw that. What is that?
I have no idea.
Looks like a big turd. That's somebody's huge worm. Go. So somebody's fishing some serious worms here in this pond. Pretty sure that's a waterlogged Senko. Dude, that's gross, man. Ooh, you're touching it. Ew.
Just a small largemouth again. Gotta get the boat under control first here. Let's go for a ride, buddy. Let's go for a ride. Come here. Another 1 pound fish, I bet. I'm guessing. And another 1 pound fish. Yesterday, another yellow perch. Okay, I was just thinking about this, that we weren't catching enough fish to determine if they wanted a light color or a dark color. This is the first one I can remember being caught on that white bobby garland. Now, Zach was using the bobby garland itty bit swimmers yesterday, as was I, and I was doing a single jig at the time. Today I had it set up doing a double jig rig on that one as well. And what I always do when I run those is I always run a dark color and I run a light color. And when you get to the point, we're not quite there yet to start messing with colors, but there is usually a preference what fish are taking, if they are keying in on darker colors or they're keying in on lighter colors. So I always run one of each until I can narrow down. If I'm catching fish and I'm constantly catching it on a light colored jig, I'll take that darker color jig off and put another light color jig on. To, you know, you're basically increasing your hookup chances, and vice versa. If I'm seeing that they are always hitting that darker jig, I'll put another darker jig of a different color, and we just keep refining it. We keep refining it down to where, you know, the fish are telling us, hey, this is what I want. It's not just something I'm grabbing hold of as it swims by type thing. Now, the one thing that I do with this, I take these bobby garlands and I'll thread them on, and I try to get that hook as squared in that body as I can. And then what I'll do here, set this down for a second, I'll take a little dab, and I mean a little dab of super glue. Hopefully I didn't glue my lid shut on it, which I did. This heat today probably did not help this at all. And I did. Well, I'll have to get another bottle. So what I'll do is I'll take a little dab, and I'll put a little dab right here, right where the back of the jig head meets the body, and push that up. And what that does, that stops that thing from rotating, because there's no keeper on it. And it also stops the fish. A lot of times if they grab it from the back, they'll end up pulling it. They'll end up pulling it back like this, and then you have to constantly keep resetting it. That little dab of super glue, like I said, at that joint, stops that from happening. And I fished all day today with 2 of these, and I didn't have to adjust any of them. So that's what we were doing. Now you understand, you know, kind of why we do what we do. There's always a reason. There's always a reason for what we're doing here. So we'll keep fishing Ingrams Pond and keep plying away at things and getting things figured out and keep sharing. All right, I'll catch you guys on the water.